Some of the people that you've heard from tonight are our dedoc voices, and our next guest happens to be one too. If you've not heard of the dedoc voices, then it is essentially a network of diabetes advocates from across the globe, and also a scholarship program which allows advocates to go to some of the world's most renowned scientific conferences. If you're interested in applying and perhaps joining, we will be sharing more information on that at the end, so do stick around. But for now, it is my great honor to introduce Chelcie. Chelcie has attended several conferences as a dedoc voice, including last year's trial run of the voices at the American Diabetes Association's scientific sessions. He has been fighting to access this conference for years, but this year he didn't have to do that because he was in fact invited as a guest speaker. Here to tell us more is Chelcie. Hi, Chelcie. Nice to see you.
How's everybody doing?
Good. A little bit warm backstage, but otherwise, all good.
Yeah, I know. It's well, I turned my fan off because it was like making a whole bunch of like helicopter shadows and stuff. I didn't want to bore anyone with that.
No, we've had the fan off here as well, and it's creeping up. But anyway, tonight's topic, it was actually requested by another one of our dedoc voices, and we are all actually really excited to hear more about this. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to attend ADA this year as an invited guest, rather than having to fight your way in as you've done in the past?
Yeah, it was actually kind of surprising to get that email with the invitation and about what they were inviting me to do, to be on a symposium about being a person living with diabetes, using diabetes technology as a person with low vision or blindness, because I have lost vision in my right eye due to diabetic retinopathy. And so when I got the invitation, I was kind of surprised. At first, I didn't really believe it. I thought it was like spam or something. But then I noticed a couple of other people. Well, two of the individuals that run the symposium with me are two people that I've worked with before over the years. And so when I heard they were a part of it, then I knew it was pretty much legit. It was an interesting process. I mean, when you get the emails and you reply, and then they reply to you as Dr. Rice, it was like, okay, I think this is starting to. I don't really know whether they know exactly. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a patient. But once we got all that ironed out, they understood, and I appreciated the fact that they allowed me to be on that stage and talk about my experience with using diabetes technology as a person with low vision, because it's something that I've become quite passionate about. Oftentimes I didn't really think about it until I started meeting more and more patients who were living with the same thing as I was, whether they were totally blind or have partial vision. I met several people who attended the symposium who were blind, using whatever apparatuses they were using. And many of them were still using diabetes technology. And so it was a good experience to not have to fight to get into ADA. It was kind of isolating because I missed you guys because I knew you were all there. And I was trying my best to hang out with you, with my dedoc family, because I was always reaching out to them on WhatsApp and saying, what are y'all doing? Where are you at? What are you doing? It's like, because I'm over here by myself. And that was pretty much the thing. When you're invited to these, you pretty much on your own. And I guess that's kind of fine because they're used to dealing with medical professionals. And so they figure they can, pretty much take care of themselves. So I've grown accustomed to being around a group of people. So that was something to get used to. But all in all, it went smoothly. There were some hiccups as far as like logistics, as far as, the hotel and everything. But it was, all in all, it was a good experience. And I appreciate the fact to be on that stage to be on a symposium. And by the way, if you still have access to the ADA, I guess, mobile app or website, you can find my symposium on there that Sunday if you weren't there that Sunday morning to attend, because it was early.
If you have the name of it, then feel free to pop it in the chat.
It's it was called Real World Challenges Diabetes Technology as a person with low vision. You can actually probably just search my name and it'll take you right to it. And then I think that whole symposium is still there to listen to. It's mainly just audio and a kind of video of the slides that we use. So it's not, you won't see me actually speaking, you'll just hear my voice in the slides.
Also quite relaxing to listen to. We do have a couple of comments before I go to my next question. First from Helga, you were amazing at ADA, Chelcie. We are also proud of you.
Thank you.
That's another one of our dedoc voices for anyone who's not in the know. And one from Jean. You're never just a patient, Chelcie. You deserve that honorary doctor title they addressed you with. You are the expert and the doctor of your diabetes.
If I could only get the pay of a doctor.
Yeah. So my next question, we're starting to see people with lived experience being invited to conferences more and more often to share their stories. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done in that field, but what do you think this could mean for the wider diabetes community going forward?
I think it could actually open a lot of doors and definitely knock down a lot of walls. I'm really appreciative of what dedoc has done for me to allow me to be able to be in these spaces. And because when I started out advocating back around 2012, we had a lot of more than a few conferences here in the States that were created mainly for patients. And over years, those have kind of dwindled away, which is understandable. It's hard to, run some of those things like that when you're trying to find funding and you're trying to run it out of your pocket and lose support, things of that nature. But the fact that we're able to finally get in these spaces, the next step is, and this is just me speaking out loud, the next step is to get the respect. Because obviously many of these professionals, some of them are really looking forward to us being there, and some of them just kind of push back with us being there and don't want to really mingle with us until they get like trapped in a eating situation or somewhere where they can share drinks and food. And I think that challenge just comes down to us as basically hitting them with the hard questions, hitting them with questions that they weren't anticipating on hearing. And that always gets people's attention whenever, no matter what you're doing, when you call them out on what they're doing, not to attack them in any way, but to show them that this is my purpose of being here. And so to own what you're doing, to own the ground you're standing on, the fact that you're attending these conferences and you're learning as much to bring back to your community, whether you're talking about technology or the latest advances in treatment, you have to own your space to demand their respect. You never have to verbally demand respect from anyone, but you can carry yourself in a way to where they have no choice but to respect you. And so I think that's the next step, is once we can start getting in the door, we can start commanding our own spaces and start having our own symposiums and demanding the respect that we need to have our own stages to speak to these folks. We don't have to, what I'm looking for is where we don't have to ask them to speak to them. Now we have our own space that you provided for us because you respect what we're doing and have a belief in what we're doing to provide us the space where we can have our own stages. We don't have to go out and necessarily create our own conferences, which those are fine. Those are fine for patients to kind of get away from the whole thing. But once we can get inside these spaces and own our own stages and spaces and stand true on that, I think that's when we start demanding and gaining the respect that we deserve, because it's not like we're going anywhere. We talk a lot about a cure, but at the moment we're not going anywhere. And like dedoc always says, nothing about us without us. So that's what we have to live by. That's what we have. If we're going to talk about it, we need to be about it. So we need to stay in these spaces and stay in these spaces.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have some comments in. Sebastian, who was on stage earlier, has said, I wish it was standard for patients to also attend these conferences. That's the dream.
That's what's been the dream for a lot of advocates throughout the years. It really just comes down to, do they want to provide the spaces? Do they want to spend the money? Yeah. I know for a fact, and here in the States, that's just what it's all about, is the money. Yeah. How much money they want to invest in the patients. Are the patients going to be or behave the way they would like us to behave and be quiet and just learn as opposed to speaking up.
Yeah. So we have one question here actually referring back to the talk you gave while you were at ADA from Linda, who said, after hearing Chelsea's talk, it changed the way I assessed all of the new tech in the exhibition hall at ADA. So it seems like your talk has had an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because what I talked about was, as a person with low vision, we have the ability to create these devices, but there's a disconnect as far as the people that are actually using them. Not everyone has two good eyes or able to hear. And there needs to be a way that these devices can actually connect with these folks more. Don't just leave the folks that are living with vision loss or hearing loss to figure it out.
Yeah.
Have them in the room to have the discussion with, well, what can we do to help this work better for you? And one of the things that I brought up was, like, on my pump, I use a tandem pump. And when I first lost my vision and got some correction, I was using reading glasses. And everybody knows you only got so much tubing, so you can't push that thing out that far to see the font. So it seems to me that somewhere along the line, we can actually find a way to adjust the font size or brightness on these devices. I mean, I know we can still use our smartphones, but not everybody is using smartphones.
Yeah.
There's a lot of disconnect as far as, like, the patients, what their ability to use these things, because there are people, like I've told people 1,000 times before, there are people in the United States that are still on dial-up as far as their internet access. And some don't have wireless at all. During COVID and lower income communities, these kids were going out, hanging outside McDonald's just to use the Wi-Fi to do their homework.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. So there's a disconnect with these guys that create the technology. They need to be, we can pat ourselves on the back all you want about what we've created and what you can do and this, that, and the other. But until you actually stop patting yourself on the back and make sure that you addressed and made it accessible to everyone, accessibility, not just to lower income, but also the people who, need to be able to use your device.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agreed. So yeah, lots of bridges still to cross there in terms of technology and accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's been really enlightening to hear it.
Oh, thank you.